invocation will be given by Ms. Gilhousen.
Pray with me, if you will. Father, thank you for the opportunity to be together, Lord. I don't know that of a time in our history when we've ever felt the importance of being together when we've had to miss it, Father. So thank you for this opportunity to gather. I thank you, Father, for the work that our teachers and our staff are doing with our children, even now as we're speaking. I pray, God, that you would just, your presence would be felt in every classroom in this county, Lord, that you would just hold us in your perfect peace, that peace that surpasses all understanding, Father. Encamp your angels about us and provide safety for our kids and our staff, Father. And I just pray an extra measure of your blessing on this school year, Lord, that we would persevere together, that we would hold hope high in our hearts, Lord, and that we would just be an encouragement to one another. Thank you, Father, for this opportunity to meet together to discuss the plans for the safety and operations of our schools. Give us your wisdom and your guidance and help us to always look to you in all things. And may you receive all the glory and honor that you're due. In your name we pray. Amen.
Clay County School Board special meeting, August 26, 2020 will come to order. I'd like to welcome citizens of Clay County. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend this school board meeting. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. If you wish to address the board on an agenda item, there will be an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a card which you will find located over the table over here. Indicate the specific item number or topic you wish to speak about and turn it in promptly. Comments submitted prior to 4 p.m. on August 25th, 2020 via the comment link on our website will also be addressed during the public comments portion of this meeting. Your participation is welcome and appreciated, and I will note that there were no comment cards that came in. Before we get to the first...
One comment card, Vicky's.
Huh?
We have one comment card, Vicky's.
Just mine from earlier, remember?
Yeah, I'm going to get to it. I've got plans in my head, but thank you, Ms. Wilson. Before we start the rest of the meeting, Mr. Bittner would like to make a couple comments.
I only had one comment. I wanted to give it at the end of the last meeting. Looking at that agenda, except I was excluded. Looking at the agenda, there will be 2 more consent agenda items, both of them having to do with agreements between the school district and community development district so that high schools can use their swimming pools for their swim meets and practices. That's all there is to it. They're standard. They're things that have been in place since 2009, so there won't be anything odd to it. So, just so you know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bittner. And we said at the workshop prior to this that we would call on Ms. Kidwell before the end of this meeting. So, Ms. Kidwell, the floor is yours.
Oh, okay, you're going to start with it. Awesome. Okay, so first I want to, Betsy's going to pass out our new CCA. We care now. 4-ply cotton, I'll have you know, and nose bridge, and adjustable ear straps. Ooh. And she's also going to give you the little strap to save your ears. That thing is awesome.
So you just attach it to both and it goes...
You put it in the little end of the slide, you slide the slider back and it grabs it, and then that way you can put it around your neck.
Right.
Like this.
Perfect.
And then put it back up.
Mm-hmm.
Like this. I like it.
And it does save your ears,
you know,
yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So I also want to give you, I'm going to wait till the end, but I'm going to give you a document that is specifically about getting information out to our community, our parents in our community, so that we have the, and I'm sorry you're having to spin. Oh, do I need to say I'm Vicki Kidwell, all that?
Yes.
I'm Vicki Kidwell, Clay County Education Association President for 26 days and it's been crazy.
Picked a good time,
Oh
didn't
my Lord, who would have known? Anyway, I'm gonna give you a document at the end of this, just a little printout at the end of this, so that you can reference it after I speak. I wanna, address the lawsuit that FEA, filed against, Governor DeSantis and Richard Corcoran, the Commissioner of Education. And I wanna be clear about the purpose of that lawsuit. The purpose of that lawsuit was not to close schools, contrary to what you may have heard. The purpose of that lawsuit was to restore your local right to make a decision about whether or not it was safe in our community and how to open our schools safely, absent of any financial penalty, absent of any political interference from Tallahassee. You were elected for that, it should be in your hands, and that's what the lawsuit was for. And the lawsuit ruling was ruled for FEA that it should be your decision-making ability on the local grounds here with health professionals to address this pandemic, to figure out how to open our schools safely, how to get our kids where they need to be, how to close down in little situations if we need to. But we should not have any kind of stick over our head saying, you must do this. It's in our Constitution that it's your local right, and that lawsuit affirmed it. However, that lawsuit is being appealed, as Mr. Brodsky and I discussed, and I'm sorry that that's happening. But it is, the state is appealing it again, so that means we're all in status quo. I think we're going to win, because constitutionally, it's in the state constitution that you have the right to make these decisions. So I want to talk about you and your decision-making ability right now. And when I make a decision, I want all the data. I want to know, how can I do this the best way possible? I want expert information. If I had a health issue, I would contact several doctors that were experts in that. I would know the latest scientific research. I would do all those things to make sound decisions, right? And that's what you're being tasked with now. It's back in your hands. It should have always been in your hands, but it's back in your hands. So, as CCA, we are educators. You know, CCA is just your teachers. We're just your teachers. And we are educators, and we love science, and we know science takes time. And this is the novel coronavirus. Novel meaning new. We're learning every day, right? Something that I heard a month ago that they think they might have discovered. Now they're saying, hey, now we think it's like this. So we have to roll with that. We have to be flexible. We have to have the most up-to-date information. I am encouraging you to convene a medical panel of local experts to advise you, local doctors, not just, right now we're relying completely on the health department. And Mr. Brodsky, I'm not sure what the guy, is it Dr. Day?
Yeah, the epidemiologist.
An epidemiologist that's one epidemiologist that is working for the Department of Health, I'm assuming, that's informing them, then they're informing you. Okay, that's all we got right now, medically. I am proposing that we go beyond that. Oh, thank you very much for the information. We get the doctors here. You get some volunteers that are working in the field, that have personal knowledge of coronavirus and how it's affecting children, and you have them come to your board meetings or another meeting and inform you, so you have that information. I think that's responsible, and that's what I would do if I was making a decision and about health and well-being of my students and staff. So that's one. Number two, we need data. We don't have all the data. We have asked the district for data on employees that have taken COVID leave. COVID leave, at least to give us some numbers. COVID leave could be for, I've been exposed and I need to isolate. It might not be me. It might be someone in my household, right? So that would be COVID leave. COVID leave could be, I'm positive. It could be I'm positive, right? COVID leave, I'm positive. I had a test and I'm positive. Or it could be I just have some symptoms. You know, signs are acting up. I don't really know. It's been hanging on a while. could be bad, need to take some COVID leave. Those are all reasons we could take COVID leave. So that data's good, but it's not really pinpointing what we need to know. I've asked Mr. Brodsky, and I'm going to ask you to think about the wisdom of getting that data of staff pinpointed down to site. Positive cases by site. I don't want to know their names. I know that's HIPAA. We know that by site is not HIPAA. That has nothing to do with site. 3 teachers at Doctors Inlet Elementary. 5 teachers at Fleming Island High. We need that data. But we also need the kid data. If we're really going to make a decision and keep our schools open, we need the kid data. 5 students at Doctors Inlet Elementary. 4 students at Fleming High School Elementary. We need to know that so we can look at it and say, and I suggest again, you have a task force to do this with doctors on it that informs you. It probably needs to include our nurse person that is over all of the nurses. And they come to you, they look at the data, and they say, look, here's the data, how many kids were in this area, how many teachers were in this area. What's the Clay County data? Ooh, it looks like we got a little rise here. Let's close down for 24 hours. Let's deep clean, fumigate everything. Let's have everybody isolate, monitor with the checklist. How am I doing? Open back up, solve the problem. If you have this data and you put it out to the public, this many students, that's what Duval's doing. They're making a COVID dashboard for the public. Why? Because absence of information is hysteria. Absence of information is conspiracy theories. Absence of information is people start rumors, hear things, and then they're worried. You give them the information that's true, you're not going to have that problem. That's going to be a big problem. Brenda and I have already dealt with that before school even opened. I heard such and such had coronavirus. Brenda, can you deal with this? If you don't give them information, they're going to search for information, and it's going to be the wrong information. So I'm saying to you, we need to do what Duval's doing. I hate to say that, but we need a dashboard that says, and we need that data. Now, CCA's been asking for criteria about, can I hand this to you guys? CCA's been asking for criteria about when and what kind of threshold are we talking about when we're talking about being surgical and looking at schools and saying, this could be a problem in this area, I think we need to do a little bit more here, maybe we need to do some extra cleaning, close down, and or there might be something going on over here, maybe that with that party, let's get on that. Whatever it is that we are doing, we have to make sure we've got that information about kids. So you'll see on here it says the parents are going to know if this happens at this percent, here's what we're happening. Here's what we're going to do. If this happens at this school, here's what we're going to do. This is going to all be on their website. You're not going to get 10 million calls. The parents are going to know what's happening. They're going to have the data. They're going to trust you. You're going to build their confidence. And we're going to be able to keep our schools open. Absent of this, well, I don't know what's going to happen. We have to figure out how to, this pandemic is not going to go away this year, guys. I hate to tell you, it ain't. I have 2 medical professionals in my family. It might dormant for a while, but what we're doing right now, putting kids in crowds, in schools, even though we have done everything that we can do with what we've been handed, we are going to have some outbreaks. So we have to be able to deal with those. We have to get ahead of that. We can't wait till it happens. We've got to be ahead of it. So that's my plea to you right now. This is going to be difficult. Department of Health has not given this information to us. It doesn't mean they don't have it. They know what kids are positive, and they know the addresses of those kids. We don't want the addresses. We just want to know what school they go to. If you ask for that information, they have to give it to you. But you got to ask. You gotta want it. And this district should want that information. You should wanna know we've got a pediatric report for every kid in Clay, but where are the kids? What school do they go to? We know this pediatric report that Heather Huffman gave you last time, it comes out every week, tells how many kids are infected, these are positive cases, and how many are in the hospital, and how many blah, 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 but where are they? What school do they go to? Does it correlate with the staff? We don't know. We should. It's all about getting good information out there for us to make good decisions, for you to make good decisions, because it's on you now. And so this is what I'm encouraging you to do. Guys, have any questions?
I like
Do we
it.
have anything?
I think it's a
like
great
that?
idea. I think we should definitely look into a dashboard. It makes a lot of sense.
So, okay, I don't know how many minutes that was, couldn't have time.
Thank you, Mickey.
All right.
Do you want to make a comment before I?
Yeah, I could. I know that the state right now is in the process of forming a state dashboard.
For school districts.
Right, and our
Per
neighbor
school.
to the north
So
has
each
not
school
produced
district
that
would be part of
dashboard
that?
to this point.
Would it be broken down by schools? Because I really do agree with what Vicki said, that having it broken down by schools and actually broken down by students and teachers
Right,
is something, personally, as a board member, I would like to see that.
right.
And
From-
tell me what the state's doing.
So from my understanding, they're in the draft format of creating a dashboard per district that wouldn't be broken down by the school, so it would have private school students' numbers in that as well. My understanding, this has also not been updated, and it was supposed to be updated, coming from Duval. My understanding is right now, the fruition of what the dashboard was supposed to be has been halted. And some changes and adjusted are being made in working in conjunction with their health department as well. So I know what they have, even here hasn't been updated, because I think they've had different discussions as of last evening, to what that would look like. But I
Yeah,
do know.
It's not live yet, they're still figuring it out.
So, and I know I reached out as well to our health department to reach out to the director of Duval's health department yesterday to see how they are doing that. So I did put that call in yesterday,
Thank you.
just
Terry.
to see how they're doing that. So, and I mean, I talk with her every day, so I have a 2 o'clock call with her today, so I can actually kind of see what she found out working with their director as well, director to director.
I was just gonna say, the other question that I would have, or the other concern that I would have, is to make certain that we know, as part of all of this, there may be a student that's aligned with a particular school, but they might be an online child,
They might be,
you
yeah.
know, or a vertical child, a virtual child. But that's something that, I mean, in building this, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, privacy, and I'm thinking all sorts of things. I agree with you 100%. The more communication, the more transparency to a point
Right.
that we can provide, the better off we will be. Unfortunately, it's that old, if you lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. We may provide all sorts of information, but there will still be a lot of concerns and questions, because people tend to blow it out of proportion as well. And that would be my concern, you know, oh my God, we've got so many cases at Doctor's Inlet, we need to, and we don't, by the way, right now, so we keep using that school.
I'm sorry, it just
Yeah,
popped in my
but that's,
head.
I mean, but that's the concern. I mean, if it's a family,
Yeah.
if there's 6 kids in that family,
Yeah.
that's 6 kids from one school. So
Right.
that's the
Or it could
concern,
be 3 schools.
without being,
High
you
school,
know,
junior high,
too,
elementary.
without being too
Yeah.
obvious,
Well,
yeah.
and to speak on that, just because you have 6 children in a school and 1 child's positive, that doesn't mean all 6 of them are positive. So
Correct.
you wouldn't see that number show up as here. You would just have those other children isolated.
Isolate, right,
So
right.
this is only tracking what would be positive cases.
Okay.
And it would have to be something that we really work with Mr. Bickner on, because there is a state statute on the de-identifications that if you were to say a teacher instead of a staff member, and I can deduce which teacher at the school it
That's
is,
right.
I have informed you, I have actually circumvented
Yeah.
and broke HIPAA.
That's exactly
And
what
a
I'm
staff
saying.
member's probably better because that covers everybody.
So,
So
Yeah, I
it
think
could be
so.
custodian,
Why was it
maintenance,
halted in Duval? Why was that halted?
I think
I'd like
they're,
to know why.
They're still
I-
building it.
yeah, I think they're just still building it and
Yeah,
trying
okay.
to work with their department on how to figure it out, how to report it and everything like that. Because the news reported 2 additional schools today that were not updated on the sheet. So, and it's kinda like, well, where are they getting their information as well? And some of the information,
Facebook.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Unless you're volunteered the information,
That's right, that's the other
we
thing.
wouldn't know this.
Mhm.
And so you
So
may
that
have
makes me
people
think,
who,
did these parents call the school and
Mhm.
volunteer this information to this elementary school, and then they added it to their list? There could be more children that should, or more staff that should be on this list, that isn't on the dashboard list, because the health department, it didn't come through the school, it went through,
Mhm.
and they may
the
not
Merlin
want to
system.
report that if they know now that they're gonna be going out on the dashboard too.
So it is definitely, I know there's a lot of questions still going on with it, so I did, when I talked to, Ms. Huffman last night, that was one of the things, I was like, I know this is something that was gonna come up in conversation as well, also because I live in Duval, I see the news myself, one of the schools is my own child's school. So, I just asked her, I was like, can we just reach out and see what their director of health department, how they're building it, and what that looks like? Cause I knew that was gonna be something probably that would come about.
And I would think the dashboard is reporting only positive tests.
Correct.
So the parent doesn't have to notify the school, but the health department already knows. And when the
Yes.
health department does their contact tracing, they can ask, what school does your child go to?
They
Do
can.
they ask that?
Through the contact tracing, they can, yes, but then that's the thing, the health department doesn't have to inform. If Duval's doing this on their own,
Mhm.
then they might be missing a piece of the the health department's data.
Right, okay.
Because
So-
I'm not sure that the health department can share that
No,
data with
not
us.
either.
They can't, so that's what I'm saying, this to me seems like it's self-reported data, and these were questions I asked Heather as well.
It
So,
would be essentially, I mean, think about when you go to the doctor, because the health department is a healthcare provider.
Mhm.
So if you go to a healthcare provider, you have to sign a release
Right.
form releasing
For somebody
your
to see.
Release your
information.
information.
So they would have to do that with every person they talk to in order to release that information to the school district or to the individual school. And then I don't even know if legally you can do that, because I think you can only release it to another healthcare provider, which a
Right.
school or a school district is not.
'Cause I don't think parents are gonna wanna call the school and report it
I don't
themselves.
think they are either.
now, I will say, so, and Ethan's team has been fabulous with this on Focus, so I went on Monday and I did a training with the health department, with the lead epidemiologist and Ms. Huffman. And so, with them having access to Focus and us having all of our teachers put their seating charts in, I was able to pull up teachers and go through mock situations of students. And there is a tab in our Focus that says contact tracing. When you click it, it will pull a list of all kids that that child sits next to throughout the day. So I used a high school example, and there was a student that was in contact directly and through seating charts with all of the 6 teachers in the class to 15 other kids. So they would automatically be able to go through those 15 kids, even if a kid couldn't remember who they sat next to. We have the seating chart where we can pull up their whole schedule and everything to go through that way, which I think is extremely important
That's a
for
good feature.
elementary, because even when I asked my daughter, I was like, who was your new friend that you sat with today? She goes, she had a cute owl mask on, couldn't tell me her name. That's how day 1 went. So I think it was a huge help to have us with Focus go ahead and do directions on how to do seating charts through everything, and then there's a contact tracing button that we were able to get on Focus for the epidemiologist, and they actually hired a team of 23, I think, now at the health department to go through and do that.
Mhm.
And it's very limited access. They don't have access to all, like, it's literally pull a kid, get the seating chart, get all the contact phone numbers to call, mom, dad, whomever. So that's,
Well, if there's a legal way to do it,
Yes.
that's not violating HIPAA, or, you know, that if there's a way, I think it really is a great idea. And I honestly, as a board member, I would like to know when we have somebody at a school. I'd like to know that.
Okay.
So the only other thing I would add, I agree with everybody's conversation, would be medical information. Remember, the health department meets regularly with all the way up to the state surgeon general. So when you're talking about medical information, the health department is not just Heather Huffman locally. This is a wide range of medical professionals that cull the data on down to the local level, I guess we would call it. So, you know, I think that what happens is people look at one individual and say, well, you know, you need to have more than just that one individual. Remember, that one individual is just representing an organization that has multiple medical people working through the network to get that information. So, I'll just kind of point that out to the.
I would also add that your public health officials, when you're talking about having protocols for how things are shut down and how all of those procedures take place, they have that training and that structure already in place. That's why they're in charge of public health. They're not managing individual care plans for individual people, but they're looking at the population as a whole, and they do have protocols and procedures in place to manage it in a way that, and they are the professionals in that area. So I would just really give some thought to that before we as a school board entity engage in managing public health.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Okay, Ms. Bullock, any comment?
No, I mean, I think it's a good plan. I just want us to be careful that we don't single out, that somebody doesn't get singled out, either an employee or a student, because again, I think we have to be very careful about their medical conditions and all, so.
First thing that came to my mind was transparency. I think the one thing that the parents are concerned about is it's the not knowing. If there is a legal way, and Ms. Kidwell and Mr. Bickner and y'all have to, you know, we're not attorneys. We certainly don't want to get into any kind of legal jeopardy and overstep, but yet, on the other hand, if there is some way for us to be transparent, and I, as a board member, would like very much not to know the individual, not to know the staff member, but if we had a couple cases show up at a school, either staff or students, I personally would like to know that, not anything else. But it kind of keeps us in the loop. What I don't want to do is do something that is not legal and would invade someone's privacy. Now, the brick and mortar students, I think we would have a better way of, you know, getting the numbers there. With the virtual students, I don't know how you're going to ever get a count on that.
And it may not be an issue
But
with,
that wouldn't be an
with
issue, it would
virtual.
really affect how you
But
close
that's
anything
something that
down.
the health department would know.
Brick and mortar is
but
the issue.
That's something that the health department would know about, but we really don't have any way of knowing about the virtual students.
Yeah, I know.
But the brick and mortar students, I feel like if someone comes down with COVID, we have the seating charts and we know who they've contacted and they'll do the contact tracing and so forth. I would like to do something to be transparent and visible to the parents so that they're with us and know exactly what we're facing, because, you know, God forbid, if 10 got sick in one school, and, you know, we're gonna have to look at what are we gonna do, but if the parents understand what we are dealing with, I think it'll just be better for all of us for there to be a communication and an understanding with the community. You said the state also is working on something in addition to Duval. Now, you know, not to put down the state, but they don't ever seem to do anything very fast. How tactful was that, boys and girls? So I would hesitate to wait on the state to do anything, because the counties in the state of Florida will have it done in their individual counties, I think, before the state ever really comes up with anything positive. I don't, Duval looks like they're starting it, and, I think, I'm glad that you, Ms. Dennis, are staying in touch with Duval to see what they're doing. I don't know where we go from here, but except I myself would like to be able to, have all of us at least know where the cases are, and if it was staff or students and how many, and that's all I want to know.
And the advantage of this would be like if there was an inordinate amount at a certain school,
Right.
okay, maybe then we zero in on maybe cleaning procedures or other things that need to be taking place. So I think that's, if it's kind of a low number, kind of the same everywhere, that'd be one thing, but if it's a spike at some school, okay, what's happening
And
here?
that's my point, is we would then deal with it as it came, as to what we need to do at that particular school.
Right.
And, anyway, but what more do you want, other than we want some kind of way, to do this, but we've got to make sure everything's legal, and, Mr. Bittner's gonna be well versed in all this. So we'll go
Well, that's
there.
a start to look
So
into
just
it.
keep us abreast.
I'm meeting with her this afternoon, so that was my big question, is just, are these self-reported cases to the school, or how, because this is not the Duval Health Department building a
Right.
dashboard, this is Duval County Public Schools building a
Right.
dashboard.
Right.
So you wanna make sure the two entities are working together, but how are you doing that legally? So that's why I was like, and to Ms. Bullock, your point, being like, how many people are gonna self-report?
Yeah,
So we actually did have a lot of people not have their children come to school this week, because after we sent out a robocall Monday night, they said, hey, we do have somebody in the house positive, we didn't realize the kids couldn't come. Yes, so we're gonna keep communicating and keep coaching
Yes.
families
Yes,
that this is not where if you had the flu and I'm feeling okay, but this is a family unit collectively gotta stay home for the 14 days. So I think if we keep coaching and keep educating,
right.
but yes, it makes me wonder, is this relying on parents and staff to self-report because they're building their own dashboard? Or is it something in conjunction with the health department? So that's what I definitely will ask and we'll look into again today.
I think one other thing to consider, since, we're talking about the purpose of this information would be to mitigate fears and rumors and that sort of thing. But I think a potential pitfall would be, sudden absences if a case comes up. So I think that's something to consider. If you see, all of a sudden there's 3 positive cases at Floating Island Elementary, or half the parents, they're gonna keep their kids home because there were 3 kids, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's something else to consider when we are talking about making this public information.
is there any conversation with the other superintendents throughout the state that any of the other counties are starting this? Because other counties have started before we did, and I'm sorry to keep using Seminole, but that's where Katie teaches, and I know that there have been some cases, and, she'll tell me, well, one of my students had to stay home today. Or the principal calls the teachers together and says, this is what's happening, we've had so many cases reported up to this, and they've only been in school for a week, but realized students did come to school who had had the test done and they hadn't found out the results yet. And it's like, oh my gosh, and when Heather spoke to us, she said, there will be cases. We can assume that there will be cases. But, just understand, and I'm not saying it this way, but just because Duval's doing it, obviously. But if there are other tools that perhaps other counties are using that might be beneficial as well, that's just something to stay abreast of and to listen, to hear any other rumblings that people are talking about, because we're all gonna go through this. That's a given. And the more we can, if we can find the best way to communicate, to alleviate fears, to alleviate the mass pandemonium that accompanies that would be awesome as well.
Yeah, earlier I kind of said, what the biggest challenge is communication. This is specifically the
That's it.
topic that I was
Right.
talking about, and just to share the issue that happened before with Ms. Traum and Ms. Kidwell. You know, we had an employee that told others she tested positive, but forgot to tell them that was back in June, right? So she tells people, you know, casually, hey, by the way, I tested positive. People then started to spread the information. Before you know it, everyone is involved in this situation at this one particular school, even though it was over a month ago, the person had tested positive and had no impact on anybody there. That is the kind of misinformation that we'll see in this particular situation. And then, of course, just like we all said, you know, how do we do that in a legal way and inform people so that we're transparent and at the same time prevent hysteria and misinformation is really what we're trying to do. And, you know, I never had Facebook until March, and I find that to be an interesting place for information to be brought out by a great many people. And so, you know, that's why you sense the cautious approach relative to this information, you know, and how to do that. And so we're on it, you know, we're meeting this afternoon. We'll continue to look for a way to do the very things that we all want to have happen, you know.
Well, and I know, the Attorneys Association, the school board attorneys, that Mr. Bickner can type on his computer and get input from the attorneys around the state. Ms. Kidwell, you've got access to a lot of state information. Mr. Brodsky through the Superintendent's Association. We may even get something through the School Board Association. But I think that we've got to keep our ears open, because what we don't want is a panic. We want to be calm, transparent, try to get what information we can out. My fear is so many people could be asymptomatic. They come to school, whether they're staff members or students, they do not have any idea that they're carriers, and they come, and then some student sitting next to them goes home and has, you know, parents or a grandparent in the house who is compromised. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to be concerned about, but I think that we're all in the same mind frame from what I'm hearing. We've just got to be very cautious and careful, and Ms. Dennis, if you'll just keep the board informed, and we'll progress with this as we can. Okay. Any more questions, Ms. Weaver? Okay, good. All right, next. Approval to advertise and notice of public hearing to approve the 2020-2021 Clay County District Schools Smart Restart Reopening Plan. I'll entertain a motion. Hello?
I'm sorry, I don't have a computer.
I'll move approval.
All right, I have a motion by Ms. Kirikas,
Second.
a second by Ms. Bullock. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye, and
Aye.
aye, and vote on your computer.
I can't.
You don't have a computer?
Ms. Nora, sorry.
Ms. Nora, will you vote for her? Okay. Number 2, approval to advertise and,
Was that all 5?
yes.
I said no.
No.
Oh, did you say no?
I
I
voted
didn't
Oh,
hear
I
a
didn't.
nay, that's why I'm
She did.
asking.
Okay. Motion.
Well, and
passed.
this was just to advertise it, this wasn't approving the final plan.
Right.
No.
So motion passes 4-1, Ms. Gilhousen dissenting. Okay. All right, number 2, approval to advertise and notice of public hearing to approve amendment to School Board Policy 6.80, transportation of school children. Mrs. Bullock, did you want to say anything?
I did. Thank you, first of all, Mr. Bickner, for putting this together for me. And this came about As you're aware, we have community partnership schools at 3 schools, Orange Park High School, Wilkinson Junior High, and Keystone High School. One of the partnerships include the medical facility, and for kids to get appointments during the day, especially students that are high risk and don't have those resources to attend. So in most cases, the medical facility will come to the school and do the appointment at the school. But in Keystone's case, it's a small medical facility called Asa Health. And so they say they drive over, they come, they have a small staff to begin with, they come over to the school. The student isn't there that day, even though they're scheduled for an appointment. And so they wait for a little while, they don't show up, and so then they leave. So all of that time, they could have been at their facility seeing patients and all of that. They're not able to do that. So the deal is, if they could drive those students over to Asa Health, which is only a mile away, for any of those students that have an appointment, so that those medical people at that school, at that facility, aren't using their time unwisely. That's the gist of it. We are going to use a school board vehicle, one of the light fleets has been assigned by Mr. Sweat, and I appreciate him doing that, and they'll transport them. The other thing is, at some point, there may be some outreach programs that one of the churches has volunteered to use their facility for those students to come to get life skills such as nutritional information, after-school tutoring, those kinds of things might be necessary for those students to be transported as well. And it will be one of the a Children's Home Society people that are currently at the school. They're just a vendor to our school, but they're located at the actual school. So that's what I'm asking for, is that they would be able to drive those kids to those appointments or to that outreach program. So that's what I'm hoping for the policy. So are there any questions from anybody about that?
After reading through the policy, I had contacted Mr. Bickner about the need for either child seats, infant seats, or making just, I guess, and I thought, is there a statement that we can add or make in there that says something to the effect of making certain that we're covering all of the laws pertaining to driving? You know what I'm saying? And the reason I brought it up was because there may be times when, if let's say an older student needs to go to this clinic, for instance, or they are taking an older student, there may be a younger sibling that is part of that, in particular in Keystone, since they're right next door, let's pick up the kindergartner and take them. Well, that kindergartner cannot sit in the front seat. The other side of that was if if one of the older students has a child of their own, and this is going to be part of and I, of course, everybody said, oh, Bannerman, and I'm like, no, we're talking Keystone, and this, it might be at the parent's house or grandma's house or whatever, but I need to pick up my baby so that we can go. Here again, appropriate seats. And I'm just saying that because if we're giving an opportunity for somebody else to drive our children, we need to make certain that we cover all the bases with that. So I didn't know if I had missed it, or if if we could add a line of some sort to that to cover any out there sorts of contingencies.
What I put in there was must be transported in designated seating positions and use the occupant crash system that's provided by the manufacturer.
So
I can add in there that they have to comply with all laws having to do with transporting
I would appreciate that.
children under 50 pounds, I think is what it is.
Or any
I'll put it in
laws
the
that apply to
statutory
children,
language.
any laws that apply to, transporting children.
As I had responded to you, the intent of this was not for us to take elementary school kids home.
Right.
It's to
No.
transport
No, I understand,
junior high and high school kids
Right.
if necessary, but primarily high school kids.
but those junior high and high school kids
But
can
I
have
understand
children.
where you're coming
So
from.
that's where I was coming from. I was thinking, there are a lot of different scenarios in our schools, so.
Does everybody agree with me adding something to that? Because if you pass it for advertisement, today I'm going to add
Okay.
some language and then it'll be part of the advertisement.
Is that okay with the board? It's fine with me.
Is that-
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine,
Okay.
that's
Because I'm
fine.
in favor of it, I just was
Yeah,
thinking,
and
I was
I don't
trying to think
anticipate
about
that, but you just don't
what
ever know, something could
other
happen.
things,
Sure.
Okay. Well, we kinda got into the discussion before I had a motion and a second, so
You
let's.
need to make that
sorry.
part of your motion.
Excuse me?
No, somebody will need to make that part of their motion.
Okay, if you would include what Bruce said in the motion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept this, are we advertising or accepting the policy?
Advertising.
Advertising.
Advertising the policy with the amendment regarding child safety within the transportation vehicle,
And I second
within
that.
the vehicles.
Okay, I have a motion by Mary Bola, second by Tina Bullock. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Ms. Nora, please vote.
Yep.
Thanks.
What's wrong with your computer?
It died.
It
It ran out of energy, it was tired.
Oh, okay.
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday, yeah, that's.
Or Wednesday.
It's a
It's a
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Or you lost today. I lost today.
Miss Bola, today is Wednesday.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I should have said something right away, but it was what's coming up. There we go. Thanks.
Okay, number 3, Florida Safe School
We're gonna
Assessment.
take a quick minute break while you clear the room.
Yeah, everybody's not there, right?
Yeah.
The next meeting, Bruce Bickner will provide an explanation of this portion of the meeting being closed to the public. Thank you, Ms. Karen Fisbrook. I have it written down. Mr. Bickner?
Florida Statute 286.0113, subparagraph A, states that the portion of a meeting that would reveal a security or fire safety system plan or portion thereof made confidential and exempt from public records laws is exempt from public meetings laws. Based upon that, and based upon what I know that Chief Wagner is going to talk about, anyone who is not associated with either being a school board member or superintendent or associated with the security systems of the school needs to exit the room at this point. That would include all public and anybody that's staff that's not in need of that.
Okay.
And has the camera been turned off also?
I'm sorry?
The video camera?
Video cameras will be off, the recording will be off, no notes will be taken, the minutes will be taken, and everybody's
Okay.
done reading
We'll
this.
we'll wait a few minutes to clear the room.